quote recently that stayed with me. It said the following: "As any woman who has worked in a male-dominated industry can tell you, the way to progress, the way to equality, is through normalcy. When women show up day after day and do their job as well as the next person, their gender eventually becomes irrelevant." That word in that quote, normalcy, it really stuck with me because it suggests something simple but powerful. That equality doesn't always begin with recognition or attention or even conversation. Sometimes it begins with repetition, with consistency, with showing up so often and doing your job so well that eventually the labels stop mattering. I've thought a lot about this from my own experience. You see, I'm the youngest of 4 kids. I have 3 older brothers. And then I went to military school where the ratio was about 9-to-1 male to female. And now I work at a consulting firm for engineering and architecture where the fields are, yet again, pretty heavily skewed. So I've seen my entire life what it feels like to be, sometimes, the only one in the room who looks or sounds like you do. And I won't pretend that the bias doesn't exist. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you feel like you have to work twice as hard to receive half the recognition. But something else has been true in my experience. Most of the time, people don't remember your gender. They remember whether you can do your job, whether you show up, whether you deliver, whether the work gets done. Because at the end of the day, work has a very simple requirement. Can you do what you said you were going to do? I once had a moment early in my career that made this very clear. I was new to the firm I was working at, just a few weeks into the job, and I was, technically speaking, late to a meeting. Not because I was unprepared, but because I was finishing something my boss had asked me to prioritize, and he knew it would make me late to the meeting. So when I walked in, someone made a light joke about it, something along the lines of, "She must have been working on someone else's projects." And my boss immediately stopped that thinking, and he said the following, and I've never forgotten it. "These aren't my projects," he said, or her projects, or your projects. "These are our projects. If she wins, I win. If I win, she wins. If she loses, I lose, and if I lose, she loses. We win together or we lose together." And that changed the way I saw everything. Because it removed the individual labels and replaced them with something bigger: shared responsibility, shared outcomes, and shared success. And when that happens, identity starts to matter less than contribution. Now, here's the thing about equality. It doesn't arrive all at once. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly through accumulation. Through thousands of small moments where someone shows up, does the work, and quietly proves they belong. Not through argument, but through performance. And eventually, something shifts. You stop being the only woman in the room, or the only man in the room, or the only new person in the room, or the different one, and you just become someone who gets the job done. Your boss sticks up for you, your coworker says something, and eventually you're just part of the team. And I think that's the part that most people miss. True normalcy, it's not about ignoring differences. It's about reaching a place where differences no longer determine competence in people's minds. Where the question isn't, what are you, but can you do the work? Because if you can't get the work done, nothing else matters. And if you can, very little else does. So whether you're in a male-dominated industry, a female-dominated one, or any environment where you feel like the minority, the message is the same. Don't underestimate the power of consistency. Don't underestimate the power of doing your job well, day in and day out. Because over time, that reputation builds something bigger than recognition. It builds normalcy. And normalcy, in the end, is what turns difference into belonging.